covers the creation of the detailing for the front of the hull. And I'm going to start out by using the template piece here of this little gun support. And this is a piece of cue card paper. So I'm just going to lay that out on, and it's cut to about the same width as this top piece from the template. So I'm just going to lay it out on top of there and try and cut the angle to match and the size to match that little piece of the template. So you might have to try a couple of times, but it shouldn't be that hard to get. You also want like a really thin strip of cue card paper and cut that to match this little crossbar right there. So again, just lay it across the template and angle each side to match the shape of the support strut thing. You can use several different types of materials. Really looks cool to use pencil lead. You can also use like really thin wire, but make sure it's got a coating of like rubber on the outside, or else you won't really probably be able to get it to bond well to the paper. And if you're going to use it for like war games or something, just infuse a really thin strip of cardboard cereal box. I mean, basically as thin as you can slice it, and use that instead of this, because this stuff is really delicate. So whatever you're going to use for the legs, just lay them on the template here, and you want to have like the amount that it pushes over the template to be about halfway, at least halfway. And then just cut that piece off, and then cut a piece to match it. It's a little bit easier to cut them side by side than it is to actually try to hold them on the template part. Okay, so you got these two. Modeling clay stuck to the cap of a glue bottle. I think it's a crazy glue bottle. Super glue bottle. And so just take your legs, and actually before even doing that, take the template example, and remembering that you're going to insert those legs to a little bit of a depth. Make your marks a little bit in from where the legs are actually shown to sit. And then, careful so as not to break them, take your little strut legs. And actually this works well for the cardboard as well. It's still too small to try to glue, even though it's not as delicate. So then, try and make a bit of a triangle. And I would recommend using straight glue for this. Put some glue on the end of each of these. And then attach this part to the tips. And as always, having a skewer handy is always good. Oh, it's kind of nice if that thing actually stays down. Just slide this around on there until you get it into fairly nice position. And remember, you didn't cut them to go all the way to the top, unless you did, in which case remember that. Shouldn't matter, the back is not really visible. So once you've got that in place, check and see if it makes sense from the front as well. Might look a little bit off and need some adjustment from the front. That's where you're going to be looking at it from. And then, another application of straight glue along these legs here. Careful, careful. And you can attach this part. And just make sure it goes on even. If it's not quite long enough, you need to push down one side or pull up the other one, or push it all the way up. So there we go. You end up like something like that, and let that dry really solid before you use it. I've got one dry here, which we can continue with. Now, it's good to use what you've built, because they sometimes turn out a little bit differently, to just test to see that where you're going to end up laying this on the model. So you can kind of see that it's not quite wide enough. That's okay. You won't really be able to notice on the final product. So I'm just going to cut a couple of short, this is the pre-hardened bit of cereal box I've got. Cut some 2.5, 3 millimeter sections. As long as they're the same, should be fine. And I'm going to glue them to match these blue spots here, but because my support strut isn't quite wide enough, I'm going to glue them in a tiny bit from their mark. Right. A piece of cardboard cut for this. This should work here. Now we're just trying to make these parts here. So, but it can, because they're so small, be a little bit of a challenge. So I recommend you start with a long piece like this. Just try to evenly create that wedge shape. See what you've got. Maybe modify it a little bit to try to match. Oop. That's not bad. There we go. The nice thing about doing it with a piece with a little bit extra length is that if you cut too shallow or deep a piece, there's always room to sort of choose either part way up or the very tip of the piece you created. So I do recommend like doing the angles on a long piece, and then you can kind of choose which section you want to use. Makes it quite a bit easier. And just attach those here and here, and these tiny little circles just inside those is where prospectively glue's been drying on me a little bit here. Like in a perfect world, the little feet would touch down on these little dots, but the world's not perfect. So set these little, I don't know what they are actually, whatever they are, on there. Well, what they are is little bits of cardboard. That's what I'm going to call them. On those symbols. here have dried a little bit more. Paintbrush is a bit of a gluey club here. It's still working. Try to adjust its position so it just kind of rests on those little bits. Now you can have it up and actually supporting the gun, but you want to wait until you're doing the gun installation to insert this, if that's the case. This condition, it's down and the gun is in firing position. Okay, so one last little thing to do here is to carefully, not to disturb that button below it, bore out this little hole here for the headlight. Oh. Quite often you will knock off the wheel. It's alright. It actually does give you better access to the underneath part here. You can trim off that kind of exit wound from your drill bit. But optimally, wouldn't want to knock that off. And now cut, again using this pre-hardened strip, about a 5mm length piece of it. A generous 5. Looks about the same, but 5 is good enough. 5 will work. 5 is, I'm sure, what I've been using, so. Sometimes pieces look small until you actually get them installed. It's helpful to use a nose pliers or tweezers for this. Just insert that a tiny amount, because you don't want it poking through the bottom. And make sure that the flat side faces forward. So you might have to twist it in there a little bit to get it properly set. And make sure it's not coming at the bottom there. And then that it's up and down straight. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Now, I wouldn't actually recommend, like, if you're going to use a Google Eye, cut the backing off and attach the backing now, and then just paint the front white and the back whatever the color is as you're painting, and then attach the plastic part when you're done painting so you can maintain that kind of shine. I use these gem stickers now, and so I would recommend just painting the vehicle, attach the gem sticker, and then just paint a little bit on the back of the gem sticker, and you're good, and you won't get paint on it. Or at least do your first few coats before you do any of the weathering and stuff like that, then attach it. So that gets you... Oh, when you're using the Google Eye, obviously you need to pull off this plastic part, if nothing else, to remove that stupid looking pupil. Unless you want a tank with an eye, which I can understand that maybe people would want that. Anyways, that gets you to the almost final steps. Just some more gun detailing and installing it, and then the track. And I think we're getting pretty close to the end. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.